Okay, so for problem 10 from chapter 8.1 of the book, we're given a problem relating to one Bernie. Now, in this case, I decided to make this Bernie Sanders just to make it a little bit more interesting for myself and my students, I hope. So the problem lays out that Bernie weighs 90 pounds plus half of his own weight, and then asks us to calculate, presumably using algebra, what Bernie actually weighs. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a variable. In this case, I'm going to use the variable b to stand for Bernie's weight. Now, the problem tells us that Bernie weighs, just right out of the gate, 90 pounds. I'm not exactly sure what a pound is, but that's okay. Plus one half of his own weight. So his weight in this case being b. So that would be b divided by 2. Now, right out of the gate, there are a couple strategies that we could use to solve this problem. We could guess and check. I mean, Bernie's a relatively slender male, so we could basically sit here and try to find values of b that would give us something that's reasonable. Now, if I had a guess, now I happen to know for a fact that Bernie is 183 centimeters tall. I am also 183 centimeters tall, and I'm going to tell you right now, I weigh a lot more than Bernie Sanders. I weigh about 100 kilos. Bernie appears to be slimmer than me, so my guess is that our final value here is going to be less than 100 kilos. In this case, 1 kilo is equal to, I think, 2.2 pounds, or is it the other way around? I think 1 pound is equal to 2.2 kilograms. I think that's how that works. Yeah, that's actually about right. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so now we've done a little bit of work in terms of putting this in context and figuring out what a likely solution is to be. Very important to highlight, especially when you're solving problems with students. So now that we've got this relatively simple equation here, all we need to do is basically solve it for b. Now to do this, what we can do is we can basically try to get rid of this 90 here by moving it over to the other side in an effort to try to get b all by itself, or to actually compute what b is. So we'll subtract 90 from both sides of the equation, and that will give us b minus 90 is equal to b divided by 2. Now, this divided by 2 bit is kind of a problem. So what we can do is we can multiply both sides of the equation by 2. Whoops. Should probably not use x for multiplication since this is algebra. That's fine. So in this case, if we multiply this side of the equation by 2, b divided by 2 multiplied by 2 is basically going to cancel out the 2 bit. So that just leaves us with b. And if we distribute this by using some parentheses, b minus 90, then what we can do is we'll distribute this so the b becomes 2b, and the minus 90 would in fact become minus 180 is all equal to b. Now what we can do is we need to basically get this minus 180 on the other side than b, so we can figure out what b is actually equal to. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add 180 to both sides in an effort to get rid of this 180. So it would be 2b is equal to b plus 180. Now we've got this pesky b over here. So what we can do is we can actually subtract b from both sides of the equation, which is totally fine, which will leave us with just b is equal to 180 pounds. Now, we need to ask ourselves, we need to do a couple things now that we've appeared to have solved this problem. We need to ask ourselves, is this answer reasonable? Now, since I'm the same height as Bernie Sanders, nowhere near as awesome as Bernie Sanders, let's see. Bernie supposedly weighs 180 pounds. If we do the math here, 2.2 multiplied by 100 kilograms, I weigh about an embarrassing 220 pounds. I think it makes sense that I weigh about 40 pounds more than Bernie. That makes sense. Now, the other thing that we need to do is we need to check our work. So what we can do is plug our answer back into the equation and see if we get a number that actually makes sense. So if we take this and we sort of plug in b is 180, so it would be 180 equals 90 plus 180 divided by 2. Okay, 180 divided by 2, I happen to remember, is 90, and 90 plus 90 is in fact equal to 180. So I would say this answer checks out. It's reasonable, and the math seems to work, assuming we haven't made a series of terrible mistakes.